Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. It's Brandon. I'm in my room here and I just posted on Facebook that I would be doing a quick Q&A if anyone had questions, so I left it open for only a few minutes because you guys are pretty quick with that stuff and you guys gave me a lot of great questions, so I cut it short. Only after about 5 minutes or so I got about 20 questions. So I'm sitting here in my room giving you guys a little bit different angle. You can see my workstation behind me. Typically what I push right here is a 27-inch iMac. I also have a small TV here that also doubles as a secondary monitor. I actually have that hooked up to my Apple TV right now, and I have my iPad out right now. So this is not an ad for Apple, but it does seem like I'm getting gangbanged by Apple products. I do have an Android phone, however, so no iPhone for me. So I want to go ahead and go through these. I'm not going to give really in-depth questions on some of these, but I do want to answer your questions where I can. So the first one on there actually isn't a question at all. It's from DeMarcus Sims, who has his own channel, D Sims Motivation. He asked for a shout out. So there you go. Next time, DeMarcus, follow the instructions, at least ask me a question if you will. Bill Short asks me, as I close that out by accident. 1 second, guys. He said, is it best to do cardios on off days, lifting days, or does it matter? For me, cardio, I'm going to kind of put this in more of a broad sense. It really depends on what you're trying to do. If you watched my video the other day, I look at cardio as a tool to help me eat more. Obviously, it can be used to help create a caloric deficit. So depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to cut, obviously cardio is probably going to be in your wheelhouse, so to say. As far as when you do it, I typically like to do it on off days just because I'm kind of tired after I lift already, not to mention I don't want to be in the gym for an extended amount of time. After an hour or so, I'm ready to leave. So I prefer to do it on off days, which ends up being about 3 days per week in most cases. Jose Ortiz asked me, how long should a clean bulk be? And this is a question I get all the time with cuts and bulks and how long. It's really personal preference. It's up to you. I mean, if you have a certain goal for body weight or maybe body fat percentage or maybe just a certain date at which you're going on a vacation or you just want to be ready for summer, I can't give you an honest answer because it really just boils down to your own personal preference. Next question says, touch on frequency or rest days, weeks. So frequency, in my opinion, really depends on how experienced you are in the gym. Most beginners are going to be able to train more frequently, up to, I'd say, 3 times per week in most cases. So that would probably be like a total body split done 3 times per week would be most optimal in my opinion. Intermediate people, typically you're looking at twice per week. Past that, and even advanced lifters, I would say twice per week. Now volume and stuff does play a big difference. It's really a short video, so it's hard to get in on some of that, but I found my sweet spot to be training 4 times total per week, hitting everything twice. Next question on here, what is your current weight and height? I know you lift heavy for your size, just want to see how big you actually are. I don't consider myself too big, and I appreciate that. I'm not trying to be humble about it, I just don't really think I'm that big, especially when you look at some of these power lifters and people out there pushing some big ass weight. But my current height and weight, I've been 6'4" for a long time. I'm 32 now. I think I stopped growing somewhere around 16 or 17 years old. As of this morning, I weighed 220 pounds, so I'm starting to kind of chip away at that weight a little bit. For the most part, I'm usually around 225. In my bulking seasons, I get up to like 235. I've been as high as 245, but I was pretty fat at the time. But right now I am 220, so I hope that answers your question. How do you keep yourself motivated when you're working out, but you are tired from work and other stuff in your life? From Jason, who also has a channel, so I'll shout out to him, Cool Like That Asian. I'll try to link that in the description box as well. So thanks for the question, man. Appreciate it. Motivation has never really been an issue for me consistently. Every now and then I get down. I don't feel like going to the gym, but I look at the gym as a great source of motivation. That helps me get more motivated because, I want to be in better shape. I want to live a longer, healthier, quality style of life. It's also really fun to go in there and lift some heavy ass weights when you're pissed off at stuff, my gym, you can't necessarily slam weights down. You guys saw that I got yelled at, and if you go to Planet Fitness, then you're shit out of luck. But it really helps get the aggression out, whether it's doing cardio, lifting heavy weights, getting a good pump, just feeling good about yourself. That is motivation in itself for me to get up and go and train, and it just gives me a kind of a sense of self-worth, know that I'm doing something to improve my own quality of life. Next question on here, jumper's knee and your experience reaction to shin splints, from Nick Andrew Hansen, who also has a channel, Ball Out Fitness, even though he said that I think a couple posts down. Yeah, he did. So Ball Out Fitness. As far as jumper knees go, relation to shin splints, jumper's knee, in my understanding, is actually patellar tendonitis. And typically with this, and I experienced a lot of people with this problem playing basketball in both high school and college, it's usually an overuse injury, meaning that you're probably just doing something too much. Maybe you kind of went from no specific activity level to a really high strenuous one. And the thing with jumper's knee or any kind of tendonitis is that it hurts, but it doesn't hurt a lot. Meaning that, so even when it starts to hurt, you might not necessarily notice it at first or just think it'll go away, and you keep practicing or keep playing or doing what you're doing. And in reality, you're more than likely making it worse. So if this is something that's been a chronic issue for you and it's been going on for a long period of time, it might be a good idea to scale it back or have it taken a look at more seriously. So next question on here, does boiling your food, chicken, change its nutritional profile? Anytime you cook something like that, you are going to denature protein, but that brings up the whole question, is denaturing really bad from what we understand and what people perceive it to be? And I think that's actually a great topic for a future video. Do you train forearm and vascularity? I do not train my forearms directly. I mentioned this the other day. I just do heavy pulling movements, rows, deadlifts, things like that. I avoid straps except when I'm going extremely heavy, and I found this has really helped me work them forearm gains. That, playing Xbox, and also the periods of time in my younger days when I did not have a girlfriend, I got a lot of extra forearm work in. Next question here, cheap Walmart protein versus expensive GNC protein, what's the difference? As far as cheap Walmart protein versus GNC specific protein, probably the only difference might be price. A lot of times if you look at the ingredient profile, you might find little differences between calories, carbs, sugars, fats, things like that. Ingredient wise, you're probably going to find them to be somewhat similar. As far as protein powders go and their quality levels, I'm not too picky. I'm actually just doing a video on this for muscle and strength. So you'll see that soon, but basically it boils down to personal preference a lot of times. As long as you're satisfied with the profile, the ingredients, the price, and the taste, I really wouldn't worry about it too much. Next question from Kenny Gonzalez, Cash Money 503. So check out Kenny if you haven't already, KGB Bodybuilding. You ever get sick of making videos, feel an overwhelming demand to perform like a swole Justin Bieber with a mustache? Nice. I don't think Bieber will ever grow a mustache. He's way too feminine for that. But to answer your questions, I don't get sick of making videos. I actually really enjoy making videos. My problem is that I'm overly self-critical of a lot of the videos that I do, so a lot of them don't even see the light of day. I could film a video, edit it, and just not ever make it public, and I'll erase it and just be pissed off. Very self-critical of my work, as you guys can probably tell from any of my lifting videos. I pick on myself a lot with form and stuff like that. I do sometimes have issues thinking of good topics to do that are relevant and could also be interesting. So when that happens and I'm really struggling for topics, I might just go online and make a post on Facebook talking about potential question and answer videos. Not that I'm doing that to just fill time, but I hope that answers your question, Kenny. What would you do if you start losing strength on a cut? Up my calories. Probably means I'm in too big of a deficit. What's your favorite scary movie? I don't have a scary movie, so to say, that's my favorite. I like scary movies only because I think they're really funny. Most of the ones that I like are more geared towards the comedy aspect anyways, but even like the ones that are supposed to be serious kind of make me laugh. When I was growing up, the movie that freaked me out the most was either Nightmare on Elm Street or Stephen King's It. Although I would say probably my favorite scary movie, and again, it's not really scary in my opinion, and it's geared more towards the comedy, is like Evil Dead or Army of Darkness. I really like those ones. I've been doing the same type of cardio for about a year now. I've lost 50 pounds doing that, incorporating weight training and counting calories and macros, but I'm at a plateau. I can't do stair step or elliptical or treadmill much because of injuries to my back. What can I do? I'm already pretty low on calories for my size. If you've been in a big caloric deficit, this is probably going to really be looking at refeeds and upping your calorie sum. I find a lot of people go in way too big of a calorie deficit and it ends up really stalling out on their gains. So I would say maybe looking to refeeds or upping calorie sum. And I know that sounds strange, but I'll likely do a video on that as well. What do you think about the window of opportunity to refuel your body after weight training? It's greatly exaggerated. Should one immediately eat protein and carbs? You don't have to. Matty Fusaro did a great video on this. It's a parody video, but it comes very true. That window of opportunity is very, very, very overblown. As long as you're getting in your nutrition throughout the course of 24 hours or a day, so to say, you will be just fine. How many sets should you do on chest and tri workouts? And also back, buys, legs, shoulders alone. I tend to stick total weeks work about 18 sets total for big muscle groups, and I'd say probably half that for smaller muscle groups like shoulders and buys and tris. So I stick to around 18 or so, give or take, depending on your experience level. Does foam rolling really speed up recovery? I find it does definitely help, and I like to foam roll both before and after my leg days, and even on days I don't train legs, it really helps loosen me up. Not to mention, just kind of feels good, you know what I'm saying? What's your general opinion on wearing lifting belts, especially people considering special people consider somewhat beginners? I actually have a video dedicated to this, so I'm not going to get into it here. I think they are beneficial to you, although I wouldn't use them as a crutch. Cutting in teens. If you want to, you can. Again, this really boils down to personal preference. Some people say don't bother cutting, just focus on muscle gaining, which I would agree. I wouldn't go into big caloric deficit, but maybe eating at maintenance or maybe just under, depending on what you really want to do, because in the long run, it is up to you. Who cares what other people think? If you want to cut, cut. What's your total? Not that it fucking matters, but you're just out of curiosity. You're a strong mofo, also considering your height. How is your squat? So beast. So I haven't actually done a powerlifting meet in a long time. Back in high school, I did several of them with mediocre totals, and I would still say my totals now are probably pretty mediocre. Looking at people that are my weight, who are usually a lot shorter, do powerlifting meets, their totals are pretty great. I haven't actually one rep maxed in any lift in a really long time. Conservatively speaking, it's at least, I would say, at least 1200, which isn't very impressive, but I'm just thinking about my normal lifts. So I mean, I can rep 300 for bench, I can rep 400 for squat, and I can rep 500 for deadlift, so that's on the low end, obviously. But I wouldn't feel comfortable estimating anything higher because I don't know, and then I'd feel like I'd have to go out and prove it. And squatting so deep, it's something I don't do. It's something I've been working on. You'll see every video. I'm trying to work on that squat form. Any experience with increasing your running speed? Looking for tips. Do more cardio. Oh, it's something more specific than do more cardio. You took my fucking answer. I made up my own running plan on treadmill with program like Wendler's. That's definitely would work. You'll see a lot of people that actually run full time, which is not something I do. I know a lot of people that run marathons and stuff like that. They work on progression as well as having days where they run more or faster and then shorter days worked in. Kind of this progression, this up and down. I don't have a better answer for you only because it's not in my experience, and I wouldn't feel comfortable doing so. Is there any truth behind the term hard gainer? I do not think so. I thought I was a hard gainer, which really just meant I wasn't eating enough food because my energy expenditure was so high as a teen, plus I was playing lots of sports. But as soon as I got hurt and broke my foot and was incapable of exercising, at least aerobically for 6 months, I got pretty fat. So I don't believe in the term hard gainer. I think that's just an excuse, although some people are slower than others. It's just a matter of figuring out how to do things. Next question, is it okay to drink raw pasteurized egg whites, and do you actually absorb the protein from it? I know that cooked eggs is always better because of its convenience. I drink pasteurized egg whites blended with fruit. I'm concerned whether I absorb all the protein from since it's raw. For example, if I drink 28 grams of, do I absorb the 28 grams? You probably will never usually absorb all the protein that you intake. But on that same point, there's no point stressing about it because a gram here or there isn't going to play a big difference. Not to mention, most of us that are health conscious actually eat way more protein than we should. There's some studies out there that really point to adequate levels of protein for somebody in a caloric maintenance or even a surplus. You can get away with like 0.6 grams of protein per lean body pound. So I mean, most of us who do 1 gram per pound of body weight, we're already exceeding that completely. As far as is it safe or not, it's pasteurized. It will decrease the risk of salmonella, but it's really up to you in that aspect. Last question, would you do the Harlem Shake Campbell Fitness style? The Harlem Shake for me, Campbell Fitness style, would probably just consist of me punching myself in the face over and over again so I wouldn't have to hear that song anymore. And that's where I'm going to cut it off. There's some questions after that. I didn't get to you guys. I'm sorry. I wanted to keep this video somewhat short. I hope you guys answer these. Hope you guys like these questions. And if you do, I'll try to do these more frequently. However, I can't really guarantee a time, a place, or anything like that. But maybe we can hammer something out. So in the meantime, everybody, thanks so much for watching. And as always, stay big.